Hey everybody, welcome back inside the Stash Project for the Stash Report. This will be our August compilation video for people who are new to the channel. First of all, welcome. Second of all, we do these videos once at the beginning of every month to sort of let you know what we expect the upcoming kit releases to be. This sort of supplements our weekly show in the sense that it clumps everything together in one easy to go back to video in terms of what to expect. Obviously, we do the release announcements months in advance when we find out about them, and this gives us a chance to sort of go back and put everything in context for the month, this being August of 2018. So there is sort of a interesting mix of releases this month, several modified reissues that will be coming along, as well as a number of obviously reissues. Some of the reissues in terms of a few of the Aoshima products are things that have been gone for quite a while in terms of their last releases, and other things are just, livery changes and things like that. So let's start over here on the domestic side of things. There will be, so far, one kit from round two. There were supposed to be additional ones, and if they are added, we'll cover those, during the weekly videos. But right now, for August, there's one kit coming out of round two. That'll be under the MPC branding, and that is the Mack DM800 tractor. This is the way more industrial look Mack compared to the. I mean, there's the two other DM kits, the one road truck and the one sort of heavy duty road truck that has the offset cab. And then this is really the industrial looking one. This is the kit with the stars and stripes livery on the box art. Round two has, of course, gone back and redone all the decals, redone the stars and stripes pattern to make it more complete. I think the old original kit, you had to mask off and paint part of that, and the decals only covered like the hood and things like that. It looks like the decals now cover the entire truck. If you wanted to go with that graphic scheme, addition of number of plates and various company names and things like that, like they've been doing with their reissues of the various truck kits. And that's it. Like I said, if there ends up being more, we'll let you know. And then Mobius will have two kits coming out in the month of August, and they are the 1970 Ford F100 4x4. So finally, after all this time, we're getting the last of the 69 through 72 F100 kits. Of course, the 65 or the 66, 67 kits are, in test shot and development phase right now. I think this puts something like 6-year or 7-year end to the run of this kit, because they were something like 3 years late originally coming out, and then a whole bunch of them came out over the course of about a year and a half, and then there's been probably at least a year, maybe another year and a half since the last truck kit came out, the 72 Custom. So finally we get the four-wheel drive version. Now, I've said this on this channel before, and I've shared this opinion with a number of friends and various other people in the hobby, that I think they really sort of blew the release scheduling on this. I think the four-wheel drive kit should have come out somewhere in the middle of all of those releases rather than at the end. I think they would have sold more of the sort of duplicate kits towards the end had they had the option to have the four-wheel drive package, mainly because you started reissuing a bunch of short bed pickup trucks back to back, and then the 72, which really isn't all that much different from the other trucks. And I think having the ability to have the four-wheel drive parts kit bashable into those other pickup trucks would have helped them sell better for people who wanted to build like the every year thing, rather than having it come out here at the end. But fear not, finally it has come out. The other thing about the waiting to the end is, we've talked about it again before, but if you know anything about the way model kits are developed these days, all of the tooling is cut at one point in time. You have all of the development put into the design, the CAD, and then into the tooling at one time, and then you just either don't run tooling inserts or gate off pieces, or in the cases of a lot of foreign manufacturers, you'll see them run the tooling complete. They'll just, throw that little gray out area on the instruction sheet telling you not to use the parts if they're for another version of the kit, and the kits are released over time. So these four-wheel drive parts have always been baked into the tooling from the original development. So it's not a question of like, oh, well, they sold Mobius to Pegasus and now Pegasus funded the completion of the... No, that tooling was all done 7 years ago when the original tooling for the 71 and the 69 were cut. Of course, all of that was cut all at one time. The short bed parts, the long bed parts, the 6-cylinder, the 2 V8s, everything was cut all at one time. And it's just a matter of releasing, the parts as the kits they wanted to do. And that's why I say I think that would have been, I think it would have helped the entire series sell better if you had the four-wheel drive parts, again, somewhere in the middle of all of those 5 kits rather than at the end. Because at this point, people will go out and they will buy this four-wheel drive version. I will go buy this four-wheel drive version at some point. I don't know how, impending that will be, as I have not actually built any of the other 4 trucks that I have as of yet. But, I do want the four-wheel drive version. But I don't think you're going to sell, a huge amount. Where you would have been like, oh yeah, I really want that, 70 short bed pickup they're coming out in a four-wheel drive version. So I got to go pick 2 kits up, right? I got to go pick the short bed version up, and I got to go pick up the, or I want a long bed rather, 72 long bed. I think the 70 is a short bed too. I want a long bed version of the four-wheel drive truck. So this, that, it just, yes, my opinion. Your mileage may vary. The other Mobius kit that is going to come out this month is the Model King branded reissue of the 65 Comet. Hello, kitty. This is going to be the Artie Beswick The Comet AFX drag car with the slew of new parts that are included in it. The drag car, obviously, new engine, interior pieces, hood, drag pieces, wheels, tires, all that sort of thing. We talked about this in the last weekly show. Or one of the last weekly shows, because as you're watching this right now, I would have just uploaded the show from the 23rd that's been sitting unedited for a couple of weeks, and then I have a show for the 30th that I need to still put together. And then, of course, this will probably go up before the show on the 30th, because I can just take this and upload it directly to YouTube without having to do too much editing to it. Just throw the opening and closing interstitials in, and it's done. I don't have to match up all of the box art and things like that. So it will be, the last weekly show you watch, but not technically the last weekly show there is, if that makes any sense. But we're still we're caught up. You just haven't seen it all yet. Moving overseas, we have a number of, like I said, of reissues and modified reissues. I say modified reissues on the domestic side of things, of course, because the 70 is, of course, a modified version of the F-Series that Mobius has done, and the 65 Comet, of course, is a modified version of the 65 Comet Streetcar, which is a Mobius kit that I kind of want, but at this point, I've still not purchased one. But at any rate, over at Aoshima, there are 3 cars that are in the model car lineup. There is no tuned model car specific releases this month, and the model car stuff is reissue of the Nissan G50 generation President / Infiniti Q45 kit. These cars in real life ran the same chassis as far as the running gear and everything else. They just had different body styles to them. So what you're going to end up here is sort of like the 1980s Mark II kit, where there's going to be 2 bodies included in the kit. One will be for the President, one will be for the Infiniti, and then all of the rest of the parts, the interior and the running gear and things like that, will go to both, and you'll pick one or the other. There are not 2 kits in this kit. Just keep that in mind. You can't build both. You got to pick one or the other, and and then everything else goes into them. They'll probably include all of the parts these kits have had in terms of like lowdown parts and ground effects and things like that. They won't have any like the VIP specific parts in them, but they'll have sort of the generic ground effects that the kits have come up with, and like the S series kits and things like that. The Infiniti Q45, by the way, guys, will be a JDM version of it. There has never been a specific left-hand drive version of that kit available. Now, when American Satco used to distribute Aoshima back in the early 1990s, they did do a version of this kit with a resin dashboard included in it for the left-hand drive conversion, but they did not actually have a real live plastic injected left-hand drive. So these will both be right-hand drive. Of course, the President was the top of the line Nissan and wasn't offered here. Then they're going to reissue the 1992 Toyota Mark II Grande Tourer 5, which is a early 1990s would be the JZX 90 series kits, and this is 3 sets of trim levels for this. So you have the Mark II, you have the Grande, and the Tourer 5. So that's sort of like base, luxury, and sport versions of the Toyota Mark II, and it's just going to be wheels and decals and things like that to differentiate that. However, it has been probably something in the neighborhood of 15 years since the last time that GX or JZX 90 kit has been reissued, and it's probably been at least 10 years since the last time the President kit was reissued. I'm not sure when the Infiniti Q45 came out last, but it's also been a long time. And then also on this is going to be a reissue of the 91 Nissan Safaro. Now, the Safaro has been reissued within the last couple of years, last 5 years at least, outside of the D1 Grand Prix car that comes out from time to time. This will be the completely factory stock version. It does have an engine insert, but you have to cut the hood out in order to use it. And then we have just the stock things for August. These are just kits that are going back into stock. No changes, just restocking vendors. 2010 Hiace Super GL, 85 Corolla 11 GT Apex, 94 Toyota Hilux Double Cab, and that'll be the street kit. But they are also going to, I believe, yes, they're also going to reissue the 94 Hilux Double Cab Lift Up, which is the one that's sort of jacked up on a monster truck style suspension, or at least a very high lift, something, the 30-40 inch wheel range. Also going to reissue the 71 Skyline GTR, the 75 Fairley Z Aero Custom, the 1989 R32 GTS-T Type M. That is the non-GTR version, obviously. The 2015 Toyota Crown Athlete, the 2008 Subaru Sambar, and that is the Subaru factory fire truck. The 81 Nissan Skyline Turbo GTE S, the 84 Skyline R30 RSX, the 85 Truno Toyota Racing Development Kit, the Lamborghini Aventador Roadster, and a reissue of the Pagani Warrior. Over at Fujimi, we're going to get a reissue of the 1/20th scale Williams FW16 F1 car. That'll be for the San Marino and Brazil Grand Prix. And then you're going to see the modified tooling release of the Toyota Alphard GF 3.5L. Now, this is the more stodgy upscale version of the Toyota Velfire van that they reissued. That was a brand new tool, rather, about a year and a half ago at this point. This has the Alphard front end, so it is the more traditional factory stock look, sold to a more upscale, older clientele. They have Velfire, again, aimed at sort of a youth market, again, if there is such a thing as a youth market for a full-size van. And that'll take us to the Hasegawa kits for this month, and they're going to be a reissue of the BMW 2002 Ti Late Edition. This would be basically sort of the some of the parts and pieces out of the Rally kit built into a street kit, and it's going to have one little teeny tiny parts runner with headrests to mount to the seats, because apparently between the 1969 2002 Ti, which is what the rally car represents, and the 1972 2002 Ti, there was one modification to that, and that is what the seats look like. So the headrests are getting a tweak, and within the thought of what is different between this and the other kits, if you have one of the original kits, the BMW 2002 Tii, that is a 1973 BMW. The 2002 Ti was the car that came before it, as far as what engine was in it and various other suspensions, and he is really bugged that I keep talking into his ear, that, was the first of the 2002s in terms of, model years and options and things like that. But if you didn't buy a Rally kit specifically, there's a bunch of new parts compared to the Tii or the Turbo. There's new wheels. There's a bunch of new. I think the seats are different in that. There's a number of exterior changes to make the early version of the 2002. If you have the Rally kit, the only difference is the headrest. If you don't have the Rally kit, then there's quite a bit of difference in this in terms of trim levels and things like that. It's not major. It's not like it's a new body. or anything like that, but it is a bunch different if you're just collecting the streetcar kits, if that makes sense. They're going to reissue the 124 scale Bennington, or Benetton rather, B190 for the 1991 F1 series. Reissue of the Subaru 360, this with the Zashaka anime tie-in. It's going to come with a little plexiglass, or not plexiglass, but a little acrylic base and two little acrylic figures to sort of create a little diorama, if you will, for that series. The kit itself, nothing new about it. This just the add-in of these anime pieces. A reissue of the Toyota Celica Turbo 4-wheel drive 1993 rack. People hate it when I say rack for the Royal Auto Club, but the rack rally. I know it gets the British people all riled up, but it is the winning car from that rally from 1993. That kit's been done before in that livery, just a straight reissue. Be interesting to see if the decals are cartograph or not. Hasegawa's sort of been going back and forth with their decals in terms of what they've been having cartograph do and what they haven't. Seems like the more complex decals are being done by cartograph, and the more, basic, if you will, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, a lot of these are 80s and 90s cars, so they aren't the fantastically complicated wraps we see on modern day race cars. The more basic things are being done in-house, printed in Japan someplace. So I haven't seen whether or not that's going to be cartograph or not. So it really doesn't matter. It'll be fresh decals, which is going to be a major upgrade to any of the original kits you might have in terms of how old those decals will be at this point. Reissue of the Isuzu Gemini. This time it's going to be the ZZ Lotus, tuned by Lotus version. This has a new front fascia, a new rear bumper, a new muffler, and of course new BBS wheels. There are a couple of little bits and pieces. That is molded in metallic green because I believe, again, all of the ZZ tuned by Lotus kits our cars in 1-1 were done in racing green. I think it might have been one or a couple of them that were done in red, but it wasn't a very big variety. It was a very, JDM specific limited run kit or car in real life. So there's not, you can paint whatever color you want to, obviously, but if you're trying to replicate the car specifically, most of them were done in British Racing Green. Another reissue of their Volkswagen Beetle, this time with a Moon Eyes tie-in. There is a Moon Eyes Beetle already in existence, but this one is a completely different livery for it. So I don't believe there's any actual new parts to this kit other than the new decal set. And then you get a reissue of the Mazda 767B Group C car in the Pleasure Racing. So it's like pleasure, but it's Playsure, Playsure, Playsure Racing. And that kit has not been released since the 1990s in that livery. There's been 767B reissues, several of them in between, but that specific livery with its a neon yellow, neon pink graphic scheme has not been released in years. So Hasegawa loves to destroy old kit value, and they're doing it with all of these 124 scale F1 and Formula 3000 releases, although those kits were never really popular because, they were the wrong scale considering what the rest of the F1 kits are in 1/20th. But, they're also sort of obscure and rare because they've never been reissued as far as I know. And then, of course, all of these JTCC and Group C cars, a lot of them haven't been run since they were done originally. Obviously, it's great for new guys who were either not around, but so, for me, you see a lot of these JTCC cars I collected from like the 1992-1994 season. This would have been when I was in like high school, and we did have a local hobby shop that was very well stocked, but they didn't carry a lot of import kits. They carried Tamiya kits at a much higher markup, obviously, than anything AMT, Monogram, Revell at the time, but they didn't carry a lot of import kits, and they certainly weren't carrying anything much in the Hasegawa line. Maybe they were doing it over in the armor and aircraft side of things, but they didn't carry a lot of car kits. So when these kits were available originally, they were not around for me. Now, I'm not collecting the Group C cars, but again, the same difference. These cars are from the late 80s, early 90s, and they probably have been released once in the 2000s, much like the Jaguar kits were back in the early 2000s. But the early 2000s at this point is somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 to 18 years ago. So it's been a while, and the kit prices on eBay have appreciated ridiculously since then. you're seeing these kits when they're getting reissued come in the $30 to $35 reissue range, which when they're discounted at Hobby Link Japan or Hobby Search end up being in the $22 to $26 range, and that is $10 to $20 more than they were originally in the 1990s. But go try to find one. You see a lot of the Ferio JTCC cars, the four-door Civics. They're running in the $60 to $90 range, and so $26 is a huge discount over the current asking price for those kits, and you're getting fresh decals. I mean, yes, okay, I have an original, 1990s JTCC kit. I have one original of the Ferio kits and one original of the Group N EG6 kits. And those kits, even now, when I bought them, cheaper than the going price for them, were still more than the new kits were. And they are also, the decals in both those kits are shot. And I've had to either buy replacement decals or combine them with the new kits that are coming out. In the case of like the Pia Civic, I have Shunko replacement decals for it. I have one of the Nami Group N EG6 cars, and I have the SK decal replacement sheet for it. And the if I don't use the Shunko sheet, because Shunko gets sort of a rap about the quality of their decals on certain sheets, I can always combine it with the reissue of the Pia Civic, and I'll have the correct wheels with the new kit and stuff like that. So it is what it is in those terms. But for a lot of people who sort of blanked out of the 1990s in terms of what we were able to obtain, because again, these kits just weren't imported here. It's fantastic to have them back, and at a reasonable price. So anyway, guys, that wraps up this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Now you know what you're gonna spend your money on, and we'll see you guys on the other side.